Am I perfectly coiffed? No curls are out of place. Hey. What are you all doing here? You just staring at me or something? Well, welcome to my channel. My name is Linda. I've got a lot of fun DIYs for you today. I'm also teaming up with some sweet friends of mine. I'll explain all those details a little bit later. So what are we waiting for? Seriously, what are we waiting for? That's right. Let's get started. For these projects today, we're going to be working on the reason for the season farmhouse style Christmas crafts. So let's get started with project number 1. From Hobby Lobby, I bought just like a quarter yard or so of some of this upholstery fabric. I love the color, and I've cut out a piece. It's 14 inches tall, about 19 inches in length, and I'm using this green velvet ribbon that I got from Michael's. It was on sale for half price. I usually don't like red and green kind of traditional colors, but I think this turned out really pretty. Freezing this here for you in case you want to order it online. There's all like the numbers for you. Of course, you can use any colors you want. I also was going to use this first fabric that I got from Walmart. It's 2 yards pre-cut for like $10, but I ended up changing it at the end, but I left this in because this showed the process of what I did. I ended up printing it onto this fabric using my inkjet printer. I'm going to show this printing on fabric tip. I showed it a few videos ago, but I know I have new subscribers. Plain copy paper, multi-purpose adhesive, and your fabric is what you're going to need. I use a thin type fabric. This is like a muslin fabric. Works really well. You're just going to spray a nice even coat on your copy paper, and then I like to fold the fabric in half and then lay it down, in half increments onto the paper. And as you can see, none of the adhesive bled through or anything like that. Once you've got it on your paper, go ahead and you're going to trim off any excess fabric. If your fabric is a little short and you have excess sticky paper showing, make sure you trim off that sticky paper. You don't want it printing through your rollers. This is the best option I found for it to print. Here it is kind of just in my printer, fabric side down, because that's the way it prints, and I just run it through, and I use a Microsoft Publisher program, and this is how beautifully it prints through, and it pulls off the paper just wonderful, no sticky residue or anything. So for this project, you can use Beacon Fabri-Tac glue or a hot glue gun. If you're not a sewer, of course, if you're a sewer, you might need a sewing machine. So the first thing I'm going to do here is cut my lengthwise trim here. I'm cutting it about 21 inches long, and then I'm going to cut my vertical ribbon here about 16 inches long. You want it to hang over about an inch on each side. Okay, and then if you're a gluer, what you want to do is go ahead, like with your long piece first, go ahead and glue that on. And I forgot to show it here. You'll see it in the next scene where I talk about sewing. When you glue it on, go ahead and fold over your ends and glue that on as well. Once you glue that one on, then you can take your vertical piece here, go ahead and glue that on, folding over your ends, and you can, glue that on the other side. So if you're a sewer here, I'm going to go ahead and pin. I just show sewing this one long side, but it's the same for both. And then here, gluers, this is what I meant. You can go ahead and fold that over like that, and even if you're a sewer, you can go ahead and glue those ends down and kind of hold it in place. And then once you get that done, then go ahead and do your shorter vertical piece and do the same thing. Okay, going ahead and folding over your top edges. Again, gluers, the same thing. You can fold it over and glue that top edge down as well, just like that. Perfect. Okay, gluing that down. Here I am, sewing machine. I'm just going to show sewing, like I said earlier, just this kind of one long piece, because I don't know what happened to the other one. I thought I had it on recording, but I didn't, but it's the same process for both pieces. And if you are a sewer but you don't want to sew this part down, then just glue it down. Either way works. It's going to be beautiful. You don't really see my stitching a whole lot because I match, the thread colors and things like that, but, I just wanted it to be, sewn. Okay, so here it is all done and ready to go. Perfect. Now, what you want to do is put right sides together, gluers and sewers. And if you're a gluer, you're going to come up like that left edge all the way around the top edge, down the other side, and across the bottom, coming to a stop about 6 inches or so, leaving an opening, and you're going to glue that just along that outer edge, okay? If you're a sewer, of course, you're going to do the same process, taking your pillow to the sewing machine and sewing it all the way around right at the edge there, leaving about that 6-inch opening, because we gluers or sewers, we want room to stuff our pillow, right? So just sewing this process all the way around. I know normally I don't have you guys, turn it wrong sides together, glue it, and have to flip it, but this time I am because I want this pillow to just look rich and extravagant and really finished off, okay? So here, once everything's sewn or glued, go ahead and flip your pillow right side out so that all its beauty is on the outside. I do love how this turned out. Like I said earlier, I'm not traditional red and green, but I just think this pillow turned out absolutely gorgeous. No, it was not my idea, although the tag was my idea that we're going to add to the pillow. I found this on grandinroad.com, I think, so it's kind of a look for less type inspirational thing. Make sure you get your corners all poked out there so it's nice and pretty. Perfect. And before we stuff, I've got some pieces cut here. You need 2 pieces at about 9 inches. And you need 1 piece at about 6.5, 7 inches. And then you need 2 more pieces at 21 inches long. So I have one here already done. And all I did was I'll show you here what I did. I do end up changing it, but I left it as you just kind of put your ends together in the middle at the back. And then I took a piece of twine, I scrunched it, took a piece of twine here, and then just tied it in a nice kind of tight knot on the back, and then cut off the excess on the tails. I ended up changing it because I wanted my loops to look a little bit more square, and I'll show you what I did down the road here in just a little bit. But you could leave it this way, okay? I left that in to show you. I just wanted it a little bit more square in the center. It's kind of weird. And then take your little short piece. You're going to make a little loop for the center. Just kind of glue it at the end and fold it over. Make a nice little cone there. A little cylindrical cone is what I'm trying to say. And then set those aside and then go ahead and start stuffing your pillow. And then just stuff it as full as you want it. Once it's stuffed, if you're a gluer, go ahead and turn your edges in and then glue that opening closed. I'm a sewer here, of course, as you know, and so I'm going to use a needle and thread, do it by hand. Just like this, I'll show a few stitches. And gluers, if you pay attention to see how I kind of fold those ends in a little bit, that's what you're going to do, is you're going to fold those ends in and then glue it closed, okay? But the sewers, of course, fold those ends in and just do tiny little stitches so that it doesn't show very much and get it stitched closed. I'm not going to show all of it, of course. Those of you know how to sew. If you're a gluer and you want to stitch it closed like this, of course, you can, sew by hand. You're comfortable with doing that. Please go ahead and do that. I just think it's nice, and I like I said, do tiny little stitches so it kind of hides and you don't really notice that hand sewing at the end. Once that's complete, before we move on to the bow, this is the fabric I essentially switched to. It's a real thin fabric, nice kind of gold threading through it. Ran it through my printer just like we discussed earlier, and I just kind of sewed around it with my sewing machine. And all I did is took a piece of thin cardboard here. I'm sorry, I don't know where the footage went, but I just kind of wrapped it like a present, and then I cut a piece of fabric to fit the back and glued that over the back. I'll show you what it looks like when it's done, but I don't know where the process went. I do apologize. So here I am. I'm gluing my tails on. You can see I kind of dovetailed them. And now here's where I kind of redid my bows. If you look in the center of that bow, do you see how the twine is just now in the center of the bow? So what I did is I wrapped it just like I did the first time till the ends meet, overlapping it. So I made a loop, and then I cut a little 1/2 inch slit on both sides, and then I ran that twine through and tied a knot in the back, because that way it lays a little bit flatter in the center. Okay, so if you can see what it looks like there, just cut a couple little slits and then run your twine through. Same process. Okay, perfect. And then we're going to go ahead and glue our little loop in the center. A cute little bow here. I'll kind of adjust my bows and everything, and I actually off camera pinned it down so the glue's set up. So here's my tag. You can see how it looks kind of wrapped around it, and then I'll show you the back side. Again, I just wrapped it like a present. Okay, and then I cut a piece to fit the back. You can see here just a piece of fabric fit the back. I just glued it all on nice and good here, and then I'm just going to add some glue right in the corner here and kind of put it right at the lower right edge of that bow, so it looks, of course, like a cute little wrapped present. And that makes this project complete. So let's see who I'm collaborating with today. I'm so excited. I think you all will be excited as well. I am joining in with Wendy, White Sparrow Living Luke 12:6, Lisa, who is Crafting My Best Life with Lisa, and Lianep, who is DIY Beauty on Purpose, all here on YouTube, of course. We are getting together to bring you lots of Christmas inspiration, focusing on the reason for the season, which is the birth of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. In my description box will be a link to the playlist with all the videos and tons of DIYs that you are just going to love. I'll also pin it in the comments for you. Make sure when you go check out their channels, if you're not already subscribed, that you click that red subscribe button before you leave their video. I promise you will not be disappointed. With that said, let's move on to project number 2. For this project, I'm going to use a couple of these shadow box houses from Dollar Tree. Now, if you don't have these, you could use like one of this wood piece or this house piece. If you use something like this, I'd probably kind of take off those little tips, but anything that's kind of a house shape, I'm going to use a wood slice, some ripped fabric, a rusty bell and rusty star, and of course some scrapbook paper. So let's get started with it. First thing I'm going to do is I wanted this to be like really, really thick. So I'm gluing these two shadow box houses together. So of course, like I said, nice thick tag here when we're done. And I've already traced around onto my paper. And what I'm doing is I'm going to cover the front, the back, and all the sides of this. And I'm cutting each piece out separately. And then I'm cutting them about probably 1/8 of an inch shorter all the way around. Okay, and what I mean by separately is like the sides and then kind of the angles of the roof, the bottom, those are all going to be separate pieces as well. But you can see here I'm starting to look just a little bit short all the way around. That way the wood will show a little bit, well, the painted wood, because we'll paint that too. But there, now you can kind of see what each piece is going to look like. And then what I like to do, those of you who are new to my channel, those who've been with me a while, I love to take my paper to my sewing machine. I just think it adds a beautiful kind of farmhouse texture to it, and I just sew all around my papers just like I'm sewing on fabric. I use a size 10 or 11 needle. My tension is set on 4. My stitch length set on 4. I use all polyester thread because that's what my machine likes, but all cotton thread will work. If you try this and your holes are a little bit too big, go down to like a size 9 needle, and you can see here kind of what the stitching looks like. I'm crooked. I don't care. I think that lends to the charm of it. So the first thing I've done here is I want to make a little template. So I traced around my log slice, and then I'm just coming in about 1/4 inch in, and I'm drawing a new pattern line here. And this is what I'm going to use to cut out. Okay, and as you saw a little bit earlier, I was chatting, so you might have missed it. I printed my quote onto some scrapbook paper from my computer. And now what I'm doing is taking this template and I placed it on to, the center of that quote so I know how big I can cut this out. Okay, and of course, again, I'll have the font that I used down in the description box for this. You could use your Word program. I always use Microsoft Publisher and just print it out the size you need it onto your scrapbook paper. Nice and easy. And that works great if you don't have like a vinyl machine or anything like that. I used to do that all the time before I got a vinyl cutting machine. And now, of course, I got to sew around this too because I sewed around all the other papers. And then I'm taking the open end of my scissor blades and I like to distress along the edge. Gives me a little bit of a rustic look, and it also helps your papers, you can see what it looks like here, to kind of pop up off of your project a little bit. And be careful when you do it because you see there I kind of ripped my paper a little bit, but to me that doesn't matter. So here's what it looks like kind of with and without, so you can choose which style you like and move forward. And if you're not a sewer, it will still look perfectly cute. If you don't sew around your papers, you could use like a fine tip Sharpie marker, make cute little dash lines. There are stamps out there, scrapbooking stamps that look like sewing stitches that you can stamp onto your paper, would be perfectly cute. So now I'm taking Dixie Belle chalk paint in the color drop cloth, and I'm just going around all the edges here. I do 2 coats and just kind of painting around it. I'm not concerned about the middle, of course, because we'll cover that right up. But yeah, 2 coats kind of covers it up really nice. But that way, when we lay our paper down here, using my Beacon Fabri-Tac glue to glue it down, our little edges of where we painted will pop out. So I think that looks really cute. You could go edge to edge with your papers, whatever you like. That's the beauty of it, right? We all have our styles. So you do what you love best. So I'm just going to kind of show gluing all the papers on. Top, bottom, everything. The front will have a different paper, but the sides, the back, everything is the secondary paper. Perfect, just like that. And then we're going to go ahead and glue the front on. I love this paper, came from Hobby Lobby, it's so pretty. And then I'm taking a ripped piece of muslin fabric, it's probably about an inch and a half wide, and wrapping it around a wood tag here. I'm just going to tie a little knot like that, and then I'll just kind of adjust the tails, pull on the threads at the end so it looks, you know, distressed. Perfect. This is super easy, but I love how it turns out. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue down our little quote onto our wood slice. You can get wood slices at Hobby Lobby. And I went to go glue this down, and I left that little edge so that it doesn't show. I almost forgot to glue this on. I cut a little piece on the back because that's going to hang off the edge, and I want it to look nice on the back of the wood slice when it hangs off. I almost forgot to put that on there. But if you forget, it's just wood showing on the back, right? And then I'm going to add a little bit of greenery in here. I was going to add my favorite beaded berries from Hobby Lobby. As you can see them laying down there on my workspace, but then decided it didn't need it. And then I'm going to glue down a rusty star and a rusty bell here. I'll have the link to where I get those down in the description box. Off camera, I'm going to use a little bit of this spray glitter. And that makes this project complete. Move on to our last project, number 3. For this project, I'm going to be using this kind of sweater trim that I picked up at Michael's. I'll have a link in the description box for you because I ended up ordering some more. Hopefully it's still there when you go to order it. This is kind of the number if you want to order it, but if you want to just go through the link, that's perfectly wonderful. You're going to need the whole roll. Now, originally it was $17. I got it half price, and you know the sales are coming, so it'll probably be even cheaper. So I'm also going to use this heavy starch from Dollar Tree, and what I want to do is take this sweater trim and see how much wider it is here than, you know, on the left-hand side. We want to go ahead and use that spray starch and just iron it out, flatten it out nice and wide so we can get as much use out of this material as possible. And I think you guys are going to really like how these turned out. And what I do is once I complete the front, and I did it in sections. I did like half of the roll at a time and then the other half of the roll. And you might have extra left over, but just kind of know that you'll need at least a roll. Once I do that, I'm going to flip it over, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the back. And then once that process is done, I'm going to repeat that whole thing all over again, front and back, to kind of get a slight stiffness. Now, once that's done, we're moving on to the next step for the next part of our stiffness. I'm taking Elmer's School Glue. You need 1 part glue, 2 parts water, and then I've mixed it in a spray bottle. I was going to spray it on, but then my stupid sprayer wouldn't work. It was weird. I don't know, probably because it's glue and water, but it would spray out a few times good and then not, because I know you wanted to know that story. So I'm putting it on with the paintbrush. Now, I of course, could take the whole thing and I could dunk it in and, you know, glue it all up and get it all wet and soppy and whatever. But then that kind of defeats the purpose of how we ironed it out, right, with the spray starch. So I am choosing to just, I switched to a larger brush off camera and finish it up. But just a couple of coats, front and back, and then I laid it over my pellet stove for about 45 minutes to let it dry, and it is perfectly the stiffness we want. Okay, so our next step is I do have a free printable for you. Yes, we're making a beautiful winter kind of poinsettia flower, and you have small, medium, large sizes, and it tells you how many to cut out of each size. 6 for large, 4 for medium, 3 for small. I've got some cut out already, ready to go, but I do have a few more going to cut out. Just going to show you kind of how easy it is. So I'm going to, you know, I've got a little piece here left from my previous section of sweater material I stiffened. So I'm just going to pin that on. I'm not trying to, you all know me, I like things a little whimsical, sometimes a little bit off. I'm not trying to cut it perfectly straight or anything like that. And by all means, if you don't like this pattern, you could draw just kind of like almost like a leaf pattern, like an eyeball shape, and use that for your petals. I just liked this little bit of shape in there. And I'll tell you why, because I was at a local store and they had these beautiful poinsettias there. And they were the shapes of the leaves. And on sale, they wanted $10 for one poinsettia. And I'm like, nope, I can make that better. And I did. So we're making 3 poinsettias here for about $3.50 a piece. I think that's great, and they're beautiful. So I'm going to cut out one. I've cut the small and medium out. Now I've got the large cut out. It's ready to go. Once they're all cut out, I'm using these from Dollar Tree. I'm going to use the white pom-poms. There's like small, medium, and large in there. These are the medium size. And some of the pom-poms, I didn't have enough. All I had was big size, so I just kind of trimmed them down to medium size. And then this 26 gauge wire, paddle wire here, just cut off like probably a 12-inch piece. You're going to kind of bend it in the middle, make a little loop as you see here. Right? You're going to take your pom-pom, whatever size you want, but this is the size I liked. Kind of put that wire directly in the center of your pom-pom, and then at the bottom you're going to kind of pull it together and twist and get it nice and tight against that pom-pom, and continue to twist that pom-pom as you can see here, and right underneath it the wire's twisting, holding the 2 wires at the bottom and twisting the pom-pom at the top to get a nice long twisted piece. It doesn't matter how long it is, you know, I don't cut any off, probably 6, 7, 8 inches long. Now, to where you can see that wire through there, I just kind of take my scissors and kind of fluff up the pom-pom around it, kind of hide it a little bit. It's still there a little bit, but it doesn't matter. When you're done, you're going to have 5 pom-poms. So you want 5 pom-poms per flower. And then you just want to right or left angle or right angle, whichever way you do it. Just make a little bend at the top so that your pom-pom kind of is in a little number 7 shape. How about that? It's in a number 7 shape, and then where we, you know, the wire that we did for those pom-poms is kind of on the side, so you don't see it as much. Fluffy part at the top, wire in the center at the side, and then just kind of bunch them together in a little, you know, cute pattern here, and then take one of your wires here and then just twist it around the rest of the wire and set that aside. So you don't have the pom-poms. Here's another option for you. Dollar Tree has these in right now. And what you could do is just take a wire and kind of poke it into these little styrofoam balls and do it that way, or just glue them into the center of your poinsettia once your poinsettia is all done. So now I'm taking this covered wire. I get these at Hobby Lobby for $5.49. It's a 20 gauge wire. I'm using this because it's white, but you could use like a silver wire. And they're really long, so I'm just going to bend them in half and then cut them in half, of course. So I've got my wires already done here, ready, cut in half. This part's nice and easy. You can use your Beacon Fabri-Tac glue or hot glue gun for either one. And what I'm going to do is just take each flower petal and flip it over, and then I'm going to add a glue right down the center lane there from bottom to top or top to bottom, depending on which direction you glue. I'll do a few at a time, and then I'm just going to take that wire and I'm going to, of course, put it directly into that glue, kind of press it in really nice so it's nice and stable, and then just let that set aside for a little bit. So we'll just do a few here. It's really easy to do. Like that. We'll get one more of the small ones done. This Beacon Fabri-Tac glue, you have a little time to, you know, set up and work with. So then we'll do just a couple more here, adding our glue down the center of our medium petals. Got 4 here. And then, of course, we'll add our wire down the center of that glue. And you want to make sure, you know, top to bottom. Just kind of skipping ahead a little bit. Perfect. Those are done. Once all your flowers are glued and, you know, the wire's in place, everything's stable, you want to go ahead and bend all of these petals into your number 7 shape, just like we did the little pom-poms, okay? Just like that. Then we're going to take our little pom-poms. We're going to start with the smallest flower. We're going to nestle them right up under that pom-pom. And we're going to kind of do a little triangle shape with the 3 flowers here. You're hanging on to the bottom here, just like that. We're not going to do anything with that yet, okay? And then you're going to go in and add your 4 medium petals here. Now, I could have done 5, but I was okay with 4. So you may decide you want 5 medium petals. That's up to you. But I was okay with 4, you know, because you might find like it's not even, but I wanted kind of odd number petals. And then still holding it together, now I'm adding in my larger petals into position I want them underneath the medium petals, right? Because you did the small petals, then you layered the medium petals underneath and the large petals underneath the medium petals. Here's how pretty it looks. We got our beautiful poinsettia. Now I have another half piece of wire here. Still holding on to that whole clump of wires at the bottom. I'm going to start right underneath those petals, and I'm just going to twist this wire all the way down our stem. Now here, if you need to make your stem longer, add in a skewer there, nice and easy, and then continue to twist that wire all the way down. I did one of mine like that off camera. Okay, twisting this all the way down. Perfect. Just like that. And then Dollar Tree has green floral tape. I got this white floral tape, I think off eBay, maybe Hobby Lobby. And floral tape's nice, you know, you kind of want to start underneath those petals again, and it gets sticky as you stretch the floral tape. This is what my cousin told me because she was a florist. And so as you're rounding this floral tape around the wire, kind of be pulling it kind of tautly, right? As you're coming down, and when you get to the bottom, just rip it off and it'll stick to itself. And then I'm going to come back at the top and do another little layer here, coming all the way down to the bottom of the poinsettia stem. Okay, perfect. Now I know you can still see the wire underneath this, but that floral tape is going to help get everything combined. So now I'm just coming around with my petals and just kind of, you know, bending them pretty. And I'm going to do just a few petals at a time. So you saw me drop those 3 larger petals down. I'm going to use this big glitter from Walmart and this little glitter from my supply. And I'm going to take that Beacon Fabri-Tac glue and just line the outside of each petal of the flowers. Of the flower. Well, it's 3 flowers I've made. 2 off camera, 1 here. Lining the petal with the glue. I'm going to start with this more, you know, coarse glitter. And I'm just going to sprinkle it onto that glue area. I've got a, you know, little drip bowl down below, because then, you know, we can put the excess back in the bottle for the future other petals we're going to be doing. And then I'm going to come in and fill the space with the more fine glitter. And it'll kind of soften it up a little bit as well. And I'll do that on each of these other 2 petals as well. Perfect. This is so pretty. It looks just like the one that was in the store, I promise. And then once I do that, I'm going to drop down and finish it all the petals all the way around. And this is, of course, what it looks like. And then once that part's done, I'm going to take the Fabri-Tac glue and just kind of dot it on each of the pom-poms. You know, I don't want to completely cover them, just dot it, and then pour that coarser glitter right over the top. And that would just help finish these completely off. And I am just in love with these things. I am curious to know what you guys think about them. I just think they're just absolutely gorgeous. So I made 2 of them, the smaller, you know, reach, and then 1 longer one, adding a skewer in like we discussed earlier. So I've got a trio of 3 of these for our little arrangement today. And you can, of course, decide how many you want for yours, but they're just gorgeous. I can't say that enough. So I've got some greenery and stuff here ready. I end up not using those acorns and bells. I decide I don't like them, but different greenery. And I wanted greenery that had snowy look to it. Most of them I already added a skewer into it, but this last one, just kind of like I showed you earlier, you just kind of, I added a little glue and add that skewer inside the little hole area of that piece of greenery, and just pulling that floral tape tautly all the way down and wrapping it down the stick. And that would just add a lot of stability to this. Here's the box that I'm going to be using. If you guys have been with me a while, you know we made this earlier this year, and so I'm going to reuse it for this arrangement here. I'll have the link in the description box to that video for you in case you missed it. And I'm going to be using this wood slice from Dollar Tree as well, and some gel foam from Dollar Tree. So I've placed a bunch of gel foam in there, of course, gel foam. Oh my gosh. And now I'm placing the 2 shorter poinsettias at the front of our container, and then the longer one at the back of the container. Kind of have a little triangular look here, and then I, of course, changed vision for you here. And I'm just going to start adding most of the greenery around to the back side of it, with a little bit on the sides, but I kind of want the poinsettias front and center, and then, you know, I'll have a bow in there, and then that little sign to kind of finish off the front. So you just kind of place your greenery how you want it. Of course, and all the different ones that you want. Again, I wanted it all snowy, so if I wanted to keep this out a little past Christmas, I'm okay with that. Kind of wanted it more like a wintry bouquet. So now I'm kind of adding some of the snowy greenery through the poinsettias a little bit, Adding some different kinds just to give it all that great yummy texture we like. Sorry, I get in the way a little bit. And adding one last little bit here along the sides just to fill those sides in, because those poinsettias kind of spill out the sides quite a bit. So I want my greenery to kind of spill out and match. And then I'll form and shape my petals here a little bit, leaving opening in the front. We'll come to that in a minute. And then in the back side, I have this beautiful moisture green moss I buy at Walmart, and I'm just kind of tucking and filling in those areas so it's nice and finished off before you move to the next part. For our next part, we're going to move on to our sign portion. And what I'm doing is just tracing around this wood slice on a piece of paper, just like we did on our little wood tag project. And then I'm coming in about a 1/4 inch or so, maybe 1/2 inch, I don't know, whatever, somewhere in there, and then redrawing a new perimeter here to give us a new pattern. And then of course what I'll do is cut that out again, just like we did on that wood slice in that earlier project. And then that'll fit just the center of this, allowing a little of that wood slice to show all the way around. And then I'm taking this antique wax and I've really watered it down, and I'm just going to kind of stain the whole front of it here. I was only going to go around the edges, and then I realized some of that lighter color wood might show through my scrapbook paper, so I decided to kind of stain the whole thing. And then once that's done, this is what I printed off my computer just onto some scrapbook paper. And yes, I'll have a free printable for you down in the description box. So you can print that out on whatever scrapbook paper you like. And then I'll take that pattern and kind of center it onto my quote here, and paper, of course. And I will draw that pattern out. And then, of course, we'll come in and cut that out. I really like that. I kind of went looking around on Pinterest, wanting some kind of quote that was just a little bit different, and this was like part of this cute little poem or something like that. And so I just thought hope was born that night. I just thought it was so beautiful, just the simplest of words, but so beautiful. And then once that's cut out, of course, I'm going to take it to my sewing machine and I'm going to sew around the edges. I want it to, you know, match all the other projects, of course, and give us that kind of a rustic farmhouse look here. Perfectly perfect. And then I'm going to come in with the open end of my scissor blades, you knew it, and I'm going to scrape it along the edges of my paper, give us that distressed look and help kind of pop it up off of that wood, look a little bit more layered. And then we'll go ahead and use our Fabri-Tac glue and we'll glue that down right in the center here. Looking beautiful. And we'll add just a little more detail. I've got this, I think it's 20 gauge wire, and I've got one piece already done. I don't know, 7-8 inches, and I'm just twisting it around the handle of a paintbrush, and I'll pull it off, kind of straighten out one end a little bit, cut off my excess, and then I'm just squish it together. We're going to give it the faux look of its, you know, an old sign kind of hanging by wire, like on a fence post type thing. We're going to kind of add it to this area here. So I'm going to use my drill and a tiny little drill bit here, just big enough to allow that wire to kind of poke through. Get that all drilled in there, perfect. And then we'll just poke that through the holes and squish it onto the front. Just a little facade of we've wired it on, right? And then on the back side, I'm just going to twist it over. It's going to stay perfectly fine. And then I've got some of these Jenga blocks from an actual Jenga game or an off-brand Jenga game. And I'm going to glue these on the back because I want the sign to kind of pop off the top a little bit. And I'm going to spray it with the spray glitter. Now, you guys, I know because I'm having a hard time now, too. I always told you I got this at Walmart. All of a sudden, they don't have it anymore. So I did a little research, and guess what I found? This is called glitter dust. It's the same exact thing. It's by this company called ThermoWeb, and I have bought their product for years in scrapbooking. They're wonderful. It sprays the exact same clear with a little bit of glitter, even has the same smell. I'll have a link down in the description box for you where I found it on Etsy, and we're just going to spray it here a little bit, and I think I'll kind of freeze it. If you look on the lettering, you can kind of see just that little fine glitter of silver, and there are different colors, of course, from the shop I bought it from. And then I'm going to use some of this ribbon I got at Michael's, and I'm just going to do about 4 loops on each side. Maybe 3, nope, 4. I couldn't decide what. Just pleating it kind of back and forth, and then I will cut off, you know, the end for a tail. And then I'm just going to okay, maybe it's three loops. And I'm just going to kind of scrunch it in the center and grab a piece of this thin wire that we've been using throughout this project. And I'm just going to wrap it around the center. You could, of course, use like a twist tie or whatever you want. And then I'm going to use one of these coffee stir sticks and kind of glue it on the side there. And then I'm going to wrap the remaining tails of this wire around it to kind of hold that in place really nicely. And then twist it. You won't see this mess here, so that's okay. And then adjust my loops how I want them. And of course the length of my tails. And then I'm going to pop it right in the center of the 3 poinsettias here. And then I'm going to bring my loops or my tails right out to the side. I know it's hard to see. I'll change view here in just a minute. Adjust my flowers a little bit more. Perfect. Here's how it looks, just a little bit poking out. And then my sign here, it's going to look really awesome. Now, normally I would glue this down with my Fabrica glue, but I love this box. I want to, maybe, haven't decided yet, either keep this in here and store it like this for Christmas, or, if I want to reuse it, I can pop this off. So I'm using these stickum, these gel foam stickums you can get at Dollar Tree. Just kind of peel off the backing here, and then of course I can stick it to the front, and they'll be easy to kind of slide something underneath and pop this off if I do want to, use this container for something else. But once I place this sign on here, that makes this project complete. So I hope you liked all the reason for the season projects that I came up with today. I hope that I made them easy for you to recreate or, put on that to-do list for next year. Although if you made like this winter poinsettia arrangement, you could have that out just a little bit longer. Please give this video a thumbs up. It really helps my channel to grow, and leave a comment down below. You know the drill. Let me know which project was your favorite. If you just wandered in here, or maybe you're coming over from one of the other beautiful ladies channels in this collab that we're doing here, welcome to my channel. If you like what you saw here today, please, before you click off, make sure you hit that red subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss out on another video from me. Thank you again, ladies, for inviting me to join this Reason for the Season collaboration. I have enjoyed every single minute creating these projects. Everybody, remember, I'll have the link in the description box to the playlist and pinned in my comments. You can go check out these other inspirational DIYs. Before I go, I'm going to leave you with one final thought. In this Christmas season, we retell the story of Jesus' birth. We focus on all that has been promised in the Old Testament, and we see the promises of fulfillment in the New Testament, whereas we can come to the Father through Jesus and be saved by His grace. By faith, we believe and rejoice in His mercy and love. Through this faith, we see a great light shining upon us. We also rejoice and walk in this great light. We fall before this majestic, holy God. Let us focus on increasing our gladness in His presence. Let us meditate on it day and night, giving thanks that He was born one holy night just for us. In this Christmas season, we are met by a God given a new hope, a new peace, a new joy. Let that joy flow over you as you in turn reach out to Jesus and allow your heart to see all the goodness He has for you. Fall on your knees. Hear the voices of the angels sing, and exalt the Lord of all creation for His mighty works. Repeat the sounding joy of His glory among the nations, and give Him thanks for loving us. I pray that you all have a blessed Merry Christmas. Please let your heart be glad. Seek God and His strength, and remember His promises for your life, because His love endures forever, His loving kindness is everlasting, and His great hope is upon you for all your tomorrows. Merry Christmas, everybody. I love you all. Thanks for sharing your time with me, and I'll talk with you again soon. Bye.